y'all, welcome back to Homemade Simple. If we've not met before, I'm Lori. I am so glad you're here today. Last week we talked a lot about how to create and stick with a meal plan that is both nutritious and frugal. Today I want to share with you a specific meal plan that you can use for your family to feed each member of your family for $2 a day or less. I know that seems really hard and that you're going to be starving, but these meals are packed full of nutrients to get your body through the day to make sure that everyone in your family is very well nourished throughout the week. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and if you can, give the video a thumbs up. That really helps the channel reach more and more people. Let's start by reviewing a little bit of what we talked about in last week's video, and then we will get on to the meals. In last week's video, I tried to go into pretty good detail about how to build your own frugal meal plan, especially for those who may not have a lot of experience with that. I know that the subscribers on the channel are changing a bit, and so I wanted to make sure and give you a resource for how to build your own meal plan instead of having to rely on someone else building a frugal meal plan for you. I know it's important to include things in your family's meal plans that they will actually eat, and maybe my family eats things that your family really cannot stand. So that was sort of the intention in last week's video. If you haven't seen that video, I hope that you will go and check it out. I will link it right here, and I'll also link it down in the description box. I hope that it's a resource that will serve you and you can go back to whenever you feel like you might need a little bit more instruction or different ideas about how to build your own meal plan. But I thought that it might be helpful today for us to talk about a specific meal plan that can feed your family at little cost, but it will also serve your family well nutrition-wise. It is possible for us to meet the nutrition needs of our family and still not sacrifice the budget in the process. So I wanted to share this specific meal plan with you this week just to give you sort of an idea of what a nutritious frugal meal plan will look like and give you a little bit of confidence going forward that you can feed your family very good food on a very small budget. I thought maybe the best place for us to start with this meal plan was at breakfast. I'm going to go over how to make this bread loaf. It is really easy and it turns out really good every time. So be sure to stay tuned for the bread recipe. But for breakfast, I'll have several options for you. And number one is a really easy to make but very filling French toast. So I know that you know how to make French toast, but it's a really good time for us to talk about why these kinds of meals are good for a frugal meal plan. In my area, a dozen eggs ends up being about $1.50. That's about 12 cents an egg, which is very, very affordable. And then if you pair it with this homemade bread, which is the equivalent of 2 loaves for $1, so 50 cents a loaf, that really allows you to pack a lot of nutrition in your meal plan for very little money. When I calculated the cost for each of these meals, I did it per serving, and I did it with cost at my local Walmart store. That will give you a little bit of a ballpark about how much these meals are going to cost per serving. Also, some of these ingredients I have at my home on my homestead, and they were no cost to me. But I know that not everybody has access to that, so I did include the store-bought cost for each ingredient in this meal plan. So it should be pretty reflective of a true cost analysis as best as I could. I may have missed a few things, but I did try to be pretty specific about the ingredients that I used, and I tried to make the per serving cost based on the per serving of each container. Okay, now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, the French toast ended up costing 35 cents per serving. That was with no syrup, so the syrup, if you want to use it, probably would add about 5 cents each. And then if you wanted to have it with the fruit salad, it would cost about 85 cents per serving, which is still really affordable. My next option for breakfast is the Old Faithful that I always come back to, oatmeal. It is really affordable. It is very healthy. And if you put a couple of toppings on it, it is really delicious. It ends up being about 30 cents a serving with the brown sugar and walnuts, and really you cannot beat that. Next, let's talk about this really easy and delicious recipe, salsa chicken. It is very simple to put together. All you have to do is to put a couple of chicken breasts in the crock pot, cover it with your favorite salsa, add a little bit of water to the bottom of the crock pot, and put the lid on and allow it to cook for about 4 hours on high or maybe 6 hours on low. This really is a simple recipe, and it just makes dinner time so easy. It also is full of nutrition, and so this is a really good place for us to start on our meal plan. To go along with the salsa chicken, I just heated up 1 bag of rice cauliflower in the microwave, and then I also heated up a bag of whole kernel corn on the stove. Those are both really easy to do and also very affordable. So the total cost for this meal ended up being $1.30 per serving. That was really because I used these whole chicken breasts. If I had used the chicken that I'm going to talk to you about later, the legs and quarters that I found at Aldi, the cost of this meal would have gone down to 96 cents per serving, which is incredible. Anytime you can have a good, nutritious meal for less than $1 per serving, it just really is going to ramp up your ability to save money at the grocery store and on your food budget, while still not sacrificing the dietary needs of your family. This next meal might be a little bit controversial whenever we are talking about nutrition, but I love a good sausage and kraut dinner, so we're going to include it because it's a good protein source, and if you use the right kind of kraut, it's very good for your gut health. I was busy with Chris. We had an outside project this evening, so Kelsey made dinner, which I really appreciated. So you'll get to see her at work in the kitchen. But for this meal, I used 2 packages of kielbasa sausage. I also used 1 large container of sauerkraut. She just sliced them up and then cooked them in an iron skillet. I remember while we were eating, she said she wishes that she had cooked them for a little longer. I really like to cook the sausage until most of it is browned on both sides before I add the kraut. That just lends to a little bit more flavor and for all of the flavors to meld together a little bit better. She did a really good job, and it did taste really good. She also cooked up some green beans, some canned green beans, which are very inexpensive but also serve as a really good side dish. And she also cut up some watermelon. So this was a nice, well-rounded meal. The total cost for this meal was right at $1 per serving, which is excellent. Okay, next up, let's talk about these vegetarian rice and bean bowls. I'm going to use my Instant Pot a lot on this meal. First, I'm going to cook my black beans. I'm just going to add about 2 cups of beans and 8 cups of water. I'm going to seal my Instant Pot and turn it on to cook on the bean setting for 1 hour. After the hour is up, the beans are ready to be processed. I like to put my beans in a sandwich bag, try to get out all of the air, and then pack them into the freezer. This is a very easy way to have black beans on hand without having to spend the extra money for the canned black beans. This ends up being very inexpensive per serving for a really good, healthy protein to add to this meal. After I finish with the beans, I'm going to clean the Instant Pot and make my rice in there as well. So I'm just going to add 2 cups of rice and 4 cups of water. This is a very simple and easy way to make really good fluffy rice every time. Most of the time, if I cook rice, it's too hard and I don't cook it long enough, or I don't add enough water. But this is a really good way to make rice so that you don't have to buy those already made packets in order for it to turn out good. Now I've prepped all of my ingredients and I'm ready to put my bowl together. So my ingredients for this meal are the rice and beans that we made in the Instant Pot. I chopped up a little bit of lettuce. I also shredded some cheese and diced up some tomatoes and cilantro. I have some salsa and also some sour cream. So there's quite a few ingredients for this meal, but it is very, very inexpensive per serving. After calculating the cost of each item in this bowl, the cost of this meal ends up being 76 cents per serving. It's really hard to beat that for a dinner that is packed full of vegetables and nutrients and also tastes so good. Next up, I thought I would talk about making some chicken salad sandwiches. This is going to allow me to talk to you about this delicious bread recipe that is so easy to put together, but it comes out perfect every time. I'll be sure to put the recipe down in the description box. So I'm not going to go through every single step and ingredient, but just know that it's definitely worth your time to check out making this recipe. It turns out really good and soft. I really enjoy having homemade bread. Sometimes it's too busy around the house and we end up having to buy some from the store, but I really don't think anything can replace a good loaf of homemade bread. It's so versatile, it's so easy to put together, and it really is taking back ownership of your food system in your home when you have mastered the ability to make a loaf of bread. So this is a really easy recipe to start with. It doesn't take a lot of time. It rises pretty quickly, and you do get to knead the dough, which is one of my very favorite things to do. What I really like about it is the affordability of it. A loaf of bread at the store has gotten so high. I think the average cost that I see nowadays is about $4 for a loaf of bread. I just can't believe that they are charging that price for a regular loaf of bread. And then when I think about being able to source the bread in my home, it costing about 50 cents or less for the same loaf, that is healthier for my family and very easy to put together. The work time on making your own loaf of bread is maybe 20-25 minutes. You do have to work at it. You do have to be around so that you can go to the next step. But active work time is less than 30 minutes to make your own loaf of bread. So if you're afraid of homemade bread, let this be your signal to give it a try. If you see anything being done on this channel, I can guarantee you that it is very easy and very doable for anybody to do. So go ahead and give it a try. You're not going to be sorry. I really like this loaf pan. I think it's called a Pullman pan, but it's got this lid that goes on it so that when it rises into a big square, sort of like the sunbeam loaves of bread that you see at the store. I really like how this cooks up nice and evenly every time. I also like how whenever I'm ready to cut it, it cuts very evenly and easily. I just really like this pan. I would highly recommend you check it out. I'll be sure and link it down below so that you can find one on Amazon yourself. I do not think you'll be sorry. Okay, now that we've talked about the bread, let's talk about the chicken salad. I found this chicken at Aldi for $5.74 for a 10-pound bag. That was shocking. I knew that they had the bags like this at Walmart, but I've not really seen them, at least not in the past 2 years, at Aldi. So this was a really great find. Perfect timing for my budget video because it really allowed these meals to be much more affordable. So I'm just going to put all of this meat into the Instant Pot. I cooked it for about an hour and a half, I think, and then it was all nice and ready. Not only do I have 3 meals worth of meat, but I also have a gallon of chicken broth that is ready to go in a ton of different recipes. So this $5.74 really went a long way to provide my family high protein food at a very low cost. Now that I've got the broth put up, it's time for me to separate the chicken from the bones. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'm going to put together some chicken salad for our chicken salad sandwiches for our next meal. I'm going to chop up this chicken first. Again, I divided that chicken into thirds, so I'm using 1/3 of it in this chicken salad. I'm going to chop up an apple and also some grapes. I like to use this NutriChopper. I know I've talked about it a million times, but it really is handy. I mean, it would take forever for me to chop up an apple and grapes. I did try to use it for the nuts, and I will say it's definitely not made for nuts. It does not chop nuts at all. It will just make a mess, so don't do that. I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice, probably a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and about a 1/4 cup of cranberries. I made this mayonnaise from avocado oil and eggs. I'll talk to you about that in another video, so stay tuned for that recipe. I also needed to add some pickles. I was really excited about these pickles because I had bought the pickles at Costco, and then I'd run out, and I wondered if I could make more pickles using their brine, because this brine was really good and the pickles were really crispy. So I tried it. I chopped up my own cucumber and put it into this container, and it worked. So there's a bonus frugal tip for you. You can reuse the pickle juice to make your own pickles. Be sure and add this meal to a meal plan in your very near future. Okay, next up, let's talk about taco soup. I know I sound like a broken record. I know I talk about taco soup a lot. I'm really sorry about that, but sometimes you just have to have those go-to meals that are not only going to be inexpensive to make, but also are going to be filling and nutritious. And this is one of those that I just always fall back on. I always have the ingredients, almost always have the ingredients in my house to prepare a pot of taco soup. And even though it's getting warm and it's not really soup season anymore, this is still going to be a good go-to even in the hot months of the summer. So I just start with a pound of ground beef. You can get ground beef around here for about $5. I know that that is going to up the cost, but the nutrition value and the extension value of this meal, meaning that it will go a long way. There's a lot of servings in this pot of soup, so that's also going to get a lot of use out of that $5. I'm going to add a lot of seasoning so that it will be very flavorful. I like to add corn, and this time I also added some rice to make it go even further and to increase the amount of servings. And then I'm also going to add some of my black beans, and that's going to increase the protein content even more. So this is going to be a really substantial meal for supper, and also it's a perfect meal for lunch. So this pot of soup makes at least 12, maybe even 15 servings. So that allows me to get a lot of good out of this one meal. Now, the breakdown on the cost, it ended up costing 95 cents per serving, and that's including the toppings that I have. So if you want to exclude the toppings, it can be as low as 75 cents a serving. So this is an excellent option for those weeks when you need your food to go a really long way and you need it to cost as little as possible. Last up today, we have a barbecue baked potato. I just love how simple and easy it is to throw together this meal. It has all the pieces of a delicious comfort food meal with zero effort. I just put the chicken in the crock pot with a little bit of barbecue sauce and then prepare the potatoes. I like to put oil on my potato skins. Make sure you poke holes in them. They will explode in the oven if you don't. And then I like to just salt the outside of my potato skins and bake them in the oven for probably about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the temperature. I usually put mine on 400 degrees. You can also cook these in the microwave. You can cook them in your Instant Pot. That will prevent your house from getting so hot in the summer from the stove being on for an hour at a really high temperature. But up to you, however you want to cook them. And then just putting these few toppings on, some butter and sour cream and cheese, topping it with the barbecue chicken, and then adding some barbecue sauce to the top. I mean, it cannot be simpler, and it really is an affordable frugal meal as well. So this meal ended up costing $1.08 per serving. So it's not only inexpensive, but it's also filling, nutritious, and it's super easy to make. Well, that's all of today's recipes. I did miss giving you one more recipe. I would have made a ham and egg casserole. I ran out of time, so wasn't able to include that in this week's video, but I will leave the recipe down in the description box. It will give you a full 7 days worth of dinners. You can use all of the leftovers for lunch. There were plenty of leftovers for our family. And then the breakfasts that I showed you at the beginning should get you through and give you a very well-balanced, well-rounded meal plan that will allow you to feed your family for right around $2 a day. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you know of someone who could benefit from this video, please be sure to share it with them. Also, I would love to hear all of your favorite frugal meal recipes down in the comments below. I love to get all of your great ideas. Thank you again for watching today. I hope you have a wonderful week. I love you, and I will see you again next time.